Hi, I'm Brittany Ashley, your host of Breaking Norms, Building Dreams, your guide through this transformative journey in both business and life. This is your place crafted for dreamers, doers, or anyone who has been told they can't. Get ready as we challenge those narratives together. You're tuning in live to the United Public Radio Network, airing on 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. We are streaming on all the popular platforms every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join me for a candid and thought-provoking conversation celebrating your unique journey because you are worth it. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. We're pre-recording today. I always tend to say live right away. This is Breaking Norms, Building Dreams, and I'm your host, Brittany Ashley, and we are pre-recording on lovely Thursday, but we'll be live for you guys on Monday on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network 105.3 and 107.7 FM in wonderful New Orleans. I'm so excited to have Addie back on the show with me, Adriana. We call each other.
Hello, everyone.
That's how our friends have evolved over time. Can you believe we've known each other for, it feels like 100 years, but really it's been a year? It's a year.
I feel like it's more than that. I don't know. I feel like it's definitely more than that. Who knows?
It's a year because I came on your show around this time.
But I feel like I knew you from before that, right? Listen, guys, we started off on Instagram. I don't know if all love stories start out that way with biz friends, but that's how ours started. So
yes,
thank you, Instagram.
So if those who don't know Adriana, she has a show before mine called Negotiating Happiness. But let me just do a quick little debrief on who she is, and then I'm going to hand it over to you. And then we're digging into also expectations and realities of outsourcing as a whole, as we're both in that kind of realm of businesses. So everyone, please meet Adriana. She runs an online business management company helping small business and entrepreneurs systemize their business for maximizing efficiency and profit. 3 years ago, Adriana swapped her legal hat for that of an entrepreneur, striking out to negotiate her own happiness and live life on her own terms, which kind of coincides to why you started Negotiating Happiness on the, what time is it at again? I can't,
it's 1
my time
p.m.
is 1 p.m. Eastern time.
Yes.
Time. And I'm at 3 Eastern time. I always get confused with time differences.
I know, because we're so far apart. That's why.
Opposite ends of the world, everybody. It seems it is. I'm in Victoria, BC, and you're out in Ontario. But one day we'll all come together.
It's coming. It's coming down the line. It's coming.
It is. But please maybe tell all the listeners more about yourself. And I know I did my intro, but tell us more.
So I'm also a mom, and I guess this journey kind of started off that way. I was on mat leave when I decided to open up my own business, and you kind of dove in a little bit about, previously I'm a licensed paralegal with the Law Society, and I decided to sort of move away from that and work for myself because I just wanted to help small businesses. I had gone through some personal health issues, and I'd noticed that, there were sole practitioners, physiotherapists to be specific, that weren't answering any of my calls. So I was a lead for them, a client. And I kept thinking, I was like, wow, if they had somebody to help them fill in the gaps and to kind of take care of that side of operations, they wouldn't have lost a client, which at the time I was desperately looking for a physiotherapist. So it was just sort of a happy thought that came out of a really crappy health situation. So that's how I started. And I always think back about it. Like, I never would have thought that, those would be the beginnings. Obviously, my previous experience definitely helped. I had experience in graphic design. I worked in the insurance, like the medical insurance industry and legal industry. I did a lot of figuring things out and, figuring out how things tend to work in the world, and that really helped with operations. And I was pretty tech savvy from the beginning, but there was a lot of learning on the go as well, if I'm being completely honest. And now it feels like this was, a million years ago. And I just realized I should probably update that intro because it says 3 years ago, but it's like 3.5.
I was
It's going to be
gonna say,
4 soon. Yeah.
yeah, I was going to say, I feel like when I was reading it out loud, 3, I'm like, really? I feel like it's
No, it's been longer. Yeah, it's definitely been longer than that. That's only since I've started running it full time. I actually was doing it before part time, right? But I just kind of counted it as whatever the case may be. It does feel like a lot longer. And I started doing the radio show a year and a half ago, roughly. And it's been so cool and so interesting to meet all of these wonderful entrepreneurs. And we tend to kind of have similar stories of where did this amazing idea come from? And it
yeah.
typically comes from pain, from problems, from things that you think that you can't handle. And it's funny how that shows that yes, you can handle it. And it just shows how that kind of attitude would be beneficial through your entrepreneurship journey, because you're never not going to have problems, right? Like that's just life.
Yeah. And even too, like right now, the economy, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
There, because I know we're not the only ones. The economy right now is a little bit rocky in Canada and in the US.
Mhm.
We can see it always seems to be rockier too around election time. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And then also too, we're still coming through it from the whole experience through COVID. So we're kind of in a double impacted situation over here for everybody. So anybody
Right.
listening who's a business owner who thinks that you're struggling, you're not the only one. I kid you not, every phone call I've probably had this year, everybody is either going back to a 9 to 5 or finding a part-time gig just to sustain the business.
Yeah.
So you're not the only one. And so
No.
please keep that in.
I can relate to this. I feel like the summer slowed down a bit for me.
Mhm.
And as a result, I had to cut back on some of the help that I was using, which is always unfortunate. But I had to adjust because I needed to keep everything steady and level. I'm thankful that I was able to at least have, steady income come through from the business.
Yeah.
But like you said, a lot of businesses were not in that position. And how do you pivot, right? Like we talk about this all the time. How do you pivot? How do you bring new things in? How do you can't change the economy. Obviously small businesses sure contribute to it. A lot of businesses, I think is something crazy like 90% of businesses are
Mhm.
small businesses, right?
Yeah.
Which might not seem like it. So that just shows you how many entrepreneurs are out there. So you're
Mhm.
not alone. I also have picked up those phone calls where either people are pivoting in their businesses, adding new services, or just completely cutting out parts that are, either hemorrhaging time or money.
Yeah.
That's just the name of the game, I guess. You just have to know um, when to stop. But here's the other part of it. Sometimes, depending on your industry, you will boom, and you might also lose those leads or those clients because you're not set up to deal with it. So for me, I've noticed that sometimes summer is, kind of a decline because people are going on vacation and whatnot. And then September hits and everybody forgets that, we just had a whole quarter of sunshine
Yeah.
in southern Ontario, and like all the, like kind of southern Canada is, normal,
Mm.
normal weather, temperate weather. And then all of a sudden everybody wants to do 2 quarters worth of work in the last quarter of the year. And it's kind of like, okay, like let's breathe. So if you're not set up to deal with that, there's a potential that people will walk away from it, right? So then I've had to now figure out, what am I outsourcing and what kind of projects am I welcoming? What kind of projects am I not? And I mean, you and I work on certain things together, and I'm happy that we have at least each other to depend on, right? But outsourcing can save these kind of weird ups and downs if you think about it, right?
Percent. I actually just did a presentation to real estate agents because
Yeah.
we work with a range of industries just like you, and one of them are real estate agents. And
Mhm.
I was just sharing with them. I don't know if I can present. Can I?
Yeah.
Let's try it out. We're learning as we go here. Let's see. Let's
That's
see if this
funny.
will work. So what I was just showing so if you can see these numbers here. So stats and numbers, I think, tell you everything. And the one thing here is all about outsourcing. So this is like
Right.
a global number that in 2023 that Forbes found. So this is all from Forbes. 731 billion were expected to hit in just outsourcing alone.
Right.
And then there
Right.
was 531 billion for IT outsourcing.
Right.
Um, and then the cost savings to outsource with HR expectation or with an HR services, for example, is 27.2%.
Right.
And then just small businesses as a whole have outsourced with at least one specialized item at 37%. Isn't that
Do you have
crazy?
do you have a slide for us to see?
Oh, do you not see it?
Here, I'll add it too. There we go.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
I
I
like
knew you were talking about a slide. Yeah. There we go.
talking, thinking that
Those
y'all.
are crazy, but those are crazy numbers, right? And a lot of the times people just assume that outsourcing means cutting out of your profit automatically, and that's just not
Mhm.
how numbers work. Um, you uh, it kind of goes back to the whole you're gaining back your time, which means that you can then bring more to the table because you are the person that's doing the high level thinking, the idea person, that whatever else. So once you put the numbers down, like for example, when I went away on on vacation, I outsourced some of the admin work and the back and forths with clients because that kept them happy. And
Mhm.
not only that, things kept going in my absence. So that
Mhm.
means that all of my billables were coming out on time,
Yeah.
right? And I was getting paid even though I was away. So yes, it cut into my profit, but without that, I wouldn't have had those billables come out at all, right? And if you do the math obviously on your on profit, and if you're billing correctly, and if you're charging for your time and your expertise correctly, this will actually increase, over time on what you can do.
Mhm.
So even when you're not on vacation, right? So if I'm not on vacation, why am I spending time to make social posts when, I mean, sometimes I like to, and that's fine, but why
Mhm.
am I spending time to do all the consistent stuff when I can outsource that out and um, work on getting the big projects in, the big, it doesn't make any sense, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. Or how I say, going to networking events, and people are like, oh, that's not in the budget. And I said, but if you think about your conversion rate from meeting people face to face and shaking a hand and or just gaining a business friend that maybe in 6 months down the line they remember you and they refer you somebody, that
Mhm.
$100 that you spent on that dinner where you got a dinner out of it and potentially some valuable information from speakers, entertainment, whatever the case may be, versus the project that you're walking away with. Like people don't think in big pictures, they think in expenses right now. And that's just not how your year is going to shake out. That's not how your first 3 years are going to shake out, your first 5, 10, whatever the case may be. Right.
And I almost wondered too, like, I wonder if like when people start thinking about their finances and how they outsource too, I almost wonder if there's a scarcity there, and a bit more lean back into like trauma with around money and all of that.
Right.
Side note, I'm in a course called Trauma with Money, and
Yeah.
we're only like 3 courses in. It's something that I'm trying to add within my business coaching because I find when we work with entrepreneurs, they get kind of caught up in the money piece. And like
Yeah.
my thing is I'm pretty good at organizing, and like my accountant loves me. Well,
It's called type A personalities, Britt.
but the thing is like I have severe anxiety if I know that I need to go on and pay for Revenue Canada, or if I see Revenue Canada like sends me a message, I'm
Oh
like,
my God.
what did I do wrong?
I
I had to
know.
file
I
everything.
know.
Or, but then there's some that just are behind in filing, and they have that anxiety too. So it's from one spectrum to the other, and it's like, where does this come from? So this whole thing, trauma with money has been like eye-opening a lot, and just it's making me think a lot more about my journey with money, and all like the whole tier. Like I can't say
Yeah.
enough things about this program, because they want you to practice on yourself before you go.
Which is great. It's great. And
Mhm.
I'll tell you one thing. I think I had trauma with money because of that. And um, the whole living paycheck to paycheck thing that you bring from your corporate world or from your, and maybe not everybody's like that. That's great. But a lot of us started out our own businesses because we were living paycheck to paycheck, and we're like, this can't be it. This can't be it for the amount of like work and effort that I put in, right? So you carry that through until you realize that you now have the power to change it, right? But
Mhm.
it takes a really long time to figure that out. And the one thing that really helped me this year was implementing, I guess, what they call a bank account architecture, like a bank architecture. So you have more than one account where not everything is just like a giant pool of money, because it makes you think of all the different things that you have to stash away for CRA, for emergencies, for whatever the case may be, right? So it's, to me, that was the first step in being like, okay, I don't have to live like this.
Mhm.
So it definitely helped. I agree. I think that people with money issues are also the ones that are having, sorry, not money issues, but money, like limits, like mental limits around money. They're the ones that also tend to be the ones that don't charge for their services accordingly.
No, 100%. And yeah, so one of the exercises we did recently was like go off and write a note to money, like write a letter to
Mhm.
money and what it means to you.
Right.
And I'm like, this is like, I'm not doing that. And then I did it. I'm like, no, I will do it. And then it's just kind of like I was saying to a friend, it's definitely like a healing journey as well. And so it's just been, yeah, the course, I can't say enough great things about it. So in a few months time, I'll let you know, because I'll be certified with that.
Yeah.
But
And,
going,
and
oh, sorry. I was just
no, I
going to
was
say,
just gonna add. I was just gonna add to your thing, for people that don't understand, that have never done any sort of, I guess, journaling type of reflection. The
Mhm.
reason why you do that with money is because you're forcing your brain to verbalize either the good or the bad or both
Yeah.
into words, and realizing what you're really thinking about it. So once you see it on paper,
Mhm.
it's kind of like when your accountant gives you the numbers and you're a little surprised and you're like, "Oh, I didn't really think I was spending that much here," or, "Oh, I actually made more than what I thought." Right? Like it's just a realization. You're quantifying your thoughts almost, even though it's not numbers, right? It's not numbers, but it's words. You're putting a value to these feelings or whatever it is. And now that you can change your behaviors. And that's it's like therapy, right? Like that's why people go to therapy, because you can work on changing your behaviors. And this works with money. It's the
Mhm.
same thing,
Yeah. Yeah, it is 100%. And I find like with and because you mentioned about like pricing your packages and stuff like that, I think it's all
Mhm.
interconnected, especially for women. I feel like we always undersell ourselves. I'm just
Yep.
moving myself closer. We always tend to undersell ourselves and then lower our packaged rates, and not just kind of like imposter syndrome. I think it comes down to a little bit as well. we think that why would somebody pay for this because we're not worthy of it? But really it comes down to that we are all worthy of it, but how can we change our mind frame? And I was just talking to you about Lindsay, who's my coach. The other day they're like, Brittany, you don't talk nicely to yourself. So we're going to sit here and start like you practice back to, and I was like, oh my goodness, this
Right.
is really hard.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
like having like my number one thing is like this year anyways has always been like give yourself grace, because I'm a high achiever. I'm
Yeah.
always striving to do 700 billion things, and everyone's like, well,
Same.
you're just doing like all you're killing it, and I'm like, no, I'm not, because I haven't done X, Y, and Z. But so this year I tried to like take a step back, give myself grace, and then look at all the things I've accomplished this year. So one of the biggest things for me was speaking, like going more into
Yeah.
in-person speaking gigs and podcasts and all that, which have
Yeah.
been very successful this year. So I need to kind of like take that moment and celebrate those wins, because
Yeah.
what you put out is also the energy that you get back too.
It's true. It's true. And another thing to add to your idea that a lot of women tend to bend when it comes to their pricing because maybe they're unsure of value. I
Mhm.
also have another comment to make that even if they are sure of value, women tend to have been taught to be of service. So what that means is I've seen them in my own experiences with clients where they're way more likely to accept clients that don't fit their ideal situation or type because they want to help them out. So they will bend their own, pricing to fit somebody else's budget because they want the business, but also they think it's going to help. And that's a cautionary tale waiting to happen,
Yeah.
every time,
We just
right? Because we are trying to be of service all the time.
Yeah. And I will go above and beyond for clients because I
Right.
want everybody to be happy. I'm a people pleaser. And like I just had this conversation with you not too long ago about a possible client that I did end up not wanting to sign. But the thing is like I was saying to you, I'm like, I'm getting like shooting pains in my arm. Like, and like that's like I know that's gonna give me probably a heart attack, and I just can't do this, but I'm trying to push myself to accept it because we need money. And then it's like, you know what? Let's drop it because it's like
Right.
killing my soul. I'm like trying to push through everything being in my body because I know
Right.
we need clients, but then at the end of the day, I just know it's going to be a client that will take up more of my time, where I could find my true potential client that's in alignment with my values and give me those boundary spaces that I have put
Yeah.
out, which end up working out because we end up signing. Well, it sounds like it's going to be a lifetime client. First, we're starting off with branding, website development, to administration, to like anything in between. Like they just love
Yeah.
that we offer like a full tier so they can see us growing with them versus this one project would have just been a one-time project. So
Right. Right.
I think sometimes like giving yourself the space to reflect when you're feeling like
Yeah.
something's not in alignment and why it's not in alignment, and then accepting too that it's okay to say no.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You're making room for something else that fits more.
Mhm.
And that's not to say that this client that it is does not fit in your parameters now is never going to fit. Maybe they will come back because they appreciate your honesty or your integrity around things and being very transparent around money and time and effort,
Mhm.
right? That doesn't mean you're shutting that door forever. It's just if
Not the
it's
right
not a good if it's not a good fit right now, it's not a
fit.
good fit right now, and people just need to accept it, right?
Yeah.
And this is exactly how it works with outsourcing too. Like you should have certain expectations, right? I remember when I first started out, I had put out this freebie that was 10 questions to ask your VA before you hire them, and there were so many people that were interested in it. I was really surprised. I was just thinking this stuff is common sense, but
Yeah.
again, it's not. It just shows you that you kind of have to go with your gut on certain things in entrepreneurship. And a lot of the questions to me seemed very like, yeah, this is setting expectations and boundaries. And a lot of people had bad experiences with VAs or with outsourcing. So it turned them off from going forward with services like these, right? And a lot of the feedback that I got on it was, you know, I never knew when they were working, or I would just give them tasks and they wanted it in a certain format and whatever the case may be. So it just shows you that even the people that are supposed to keep you organized, they also need some structure, just like your business needs structure. And that's how you set these boundaries in place and these expectations in order to have a successful relationship. But once you have that in place, it is so much easier to see the value of your this transaction, like, you know, outsourcing and whatnot.
Yeah.
And before I see here that you've changed your slide on what is a virtual assistant, which is great. I usually describe them as the doer, right? And then with the OBM is the thinker. Sometimes we do both anyway, right?
I
Yeah.
broke
So
it
you
out.
can, yeah, that's awesome. You did.
This is a slide. This is all the presentations I presented to all the real estate agents, because I find a good chunk of people, when they come to me, they actually end up needing an OBM, not
Hmm.
really a VA, or they might need both. And they're not even ready for a VA because they have no SOPs in place. They have like nothing. They just want to start.
Yep. I
And
always say this, you need an OBM first in most situations before
Mhm.
you get a VA. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
like in this, for anyone listening who can't see the screen, more or less, VAs are very task-oriented support, and then you have OBMs that are strategic management. But I like to kind of get people to think about the level of authority versus, like, a VA would be limited decision makers, where the OBM has authority and has autonomy. So
Right.
it really helps break up the two. So
Hmm.
you and I work with an interior designer, and we do both.
Yeah.
You and I are similar, where we wear both hats.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
between being an OBM, VA, and we analyze, we do strategy, and then I wear my coaching hats. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
so we make a great team
Yeah.
and get it done.
Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, and it's great to have these distinctions, and just to put it out there, this is so new for the world because I laugh at myself because I get a lot of questions sometimes when I meet a lot of new people. They say, "Well, what's an OBM, right? Or what do you do?" And I'm sort of getting really sick of telling people what I do, which is terrible for networking and for putting yourself out there. But this is in like a personal setting, let's say, right? Not in a professional setting. So
Yeah.
please don't cast judging eyes on me, but I'm tired. Okay. I'm tired of telling people what it is. This is a perfect chart. I feel like saving this on my phone and just be like, let me give you a presentation.
Um, well, like I mentioned to you, like I feel like more people understand like fractional
Yes.
operation procedures.
Yes.
That's why I
Yes.
end up changing out the website a little bit, with that kind of copy, because they're like, "Oh, I get it now." For some
Yeah.
reason, people seem to get fractional business managers than online business managers. Overall, it's just we're in the online space and we know how to manage
Right.
everything under the sun to make your business successful.
Right. And sometimes it's just picking up the slack where you can't, right? So sometimes it's just being that right-hand person for the business owner. And sometimes it's being that person when they're not there,
Yeah.
or being that person where they're just not really sure how to manage it. They're not really sure what to do next, right?
Mhm.
And the good part about this is that we work with so many people that odds are we've been in the situation before and we've seen it through more than once, most likely,
Right?
right? So it's not just about websites. Like, I mean, you could do websites, you could do socials, you could do all of the things that encompass the online digital world and what usually, you know, is required of a business. But we also do, like you said, the strategy, the the figuring out how your systems are going to work, figuring out what's working and what's not, like trimming the fat on you know, the million platforms that you decide to sign up on that you don't necessarily use, or figuring out, easier ways for you, or actually just figuring out how you can use AI for your business to gain some of that time back. Or, there's just so many things that we kind of have our hands in. I like to say that we like to figure out the puzzle behind closed doors while you're the one going out there and getting the clients and doing development and going to networking and doing all of the things so that we can still service your clients while you're doing all of the things.
100%.
Right. And I feel like a VA comes in and supports us. And so we're the middle person, right? So a VA comes in support. We have VA services and we have people that we work with that are VAs. And sometimes we do the VA work too, because it's just the nature of things. But the VA is the one that's there constantly. So we put the machine in place in the background of operations, and the VA is the one always checking it, making sure that things are going right through and doing the communications and whatnot, while we're the okay, how can I make this better? How can I, allow the owner, the CEO, whatever the case may be, to do their, be in their zone of genius, because I might not be able to be a real estate agent or an interior designer or, a director on a board of directors, whatever the case may be, but I can deal with operations, right?
Yes. Yeah. So like I gave this example to some real estate agents of how to utilize a VA and how to utilize an OBM, and not necessarily they don't have to be
Right.
full time. So say you hired the VA for 20 hours to get your admin done, your client customer care done, so maybe social media, and then your OBM is working with the VA to make sure that they're getting the stuff done, doing strategy planning, project planning, all behind the scenes, while the realtor is out on like networking, because networking is big for realtors. So and being the forefront and making those relationships and being right there to meet the people are very important. So it's full tier on what you can create. Instead of hiring a full-time, part-time employee, you can definitely outsource all these things to a VA or OBM to get it done.
For sure. And it's funny, in the last like 2 or 3 years, I've done a lot of event and training planning as well, which is kind of cool for me. And travel planning too. Sure, that could be a lot of the admin work, but talking like trade shows. So we had to figure out logistics of how are these things getting shipped across the country? What do we want the booth to look like? What do we want the swag to look like? What's the presentation going to contain? Down to a schedule of who was going to be at the booth to address the questions, who was going to attend the talks with the speakers, when is everybody having lunch, that kind of thing. Like, it's so we get so granular in the strategy and the planning of things that we then also end up using the VA, or if you have staff, we also end up being that communicator and the person overlooking, the person that says, okay, I need you to take care of this part, this part, this part. Like, we are managers, right? We manage the resources and the people.
Yes. This slide here is just kind of for anyone listening, talks about kind of pretty much you get to maximize your overall potential and why you hire VAs or OBM. So it's the cost effectiveness. You can hire up and you can hire down very easily versus with a full-time, part-time employee. And then also too, you can hire for specialized services as well.
Right.
That sometimes a lot of people are like, yes, I have a full-time employee, but that employee might not know how to do website changes.
Right. That's a huge benefit for me. The fact that I can bounce between, having a background with legal knowledge to graphic design to website design to installing, tech platforms for client management. Like, you can't typically get that from somebody that is only looking at your calendar and your inbox. That's very much a traditional role. And maybe maybe you did hire somebody with those skills, but for those that don't have those skills, that's where we can come in. And here's the good part is that because Britt and I have, like you and I have, similar services, but we have different access to expertise, right? So your VAs are, they have different backgrounds. Anybody that I work with have different backgrounds. I mean, we just the other day, like, we're not just making this up, just the other day, like, we swapped, contact for conversion copywriting, right? That's a specialized service, conversion copywriting. So, you never know. You never know what you're capable of. And I know that a lot of people want to keep things in-house. That's just not always the best, because you are limited. You're limited to the skills that this one person might have. Whereas if you're outsourcing, you have the opportunity to say, what kind of areas do you service? What kind of expertise do you bring to the table? Have you ever done XYZ? It's a much more relaxed conversation, I think, with less pressure than putting on an employee to maybe learn on company time how to do certain things, right?
And a lot of VAs, OBMs, because we are entrepreneurs, end up having, I would say, I'm not going to tell all of us that we have it, but we have usually ADHD.
Okay, you don't need to tell everybody our secret, Britt. Okay.
Like, if we're not constantly learning or challenging ourselves, giving ourselves that extra dopamine, like, we're just bored. It's not that we're a good employee, right? Like, that's why I figured out finally, I'm like, I realized that I'm the worst employee ever, because once I've learned it, I'm done. Like, I've learned it, on to the next thing. Like, what's the next thing?
Yeah.
And then the employer is I'm so bored.
I literally have anxiety and, like, borderline on, like, nightmares, because I think that I'm falling behind with tech. So if I don't stop every so often and, like, look up new platforms or figure out, like, how can I do this better, I literally hurt, like, mentally and physically. So yes, ADHD is a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Yeah, and I have the mix in with dyslexia. Like, I've been diagnosed with dyslexia. I have not been diagnosed with ADHD, but if you've watched some of the last pre-recordings, I've had researchers and those who are ADHD experts being like, "Did you know you have ADHD?" Thanks.
Okay.
So they pretty much diagnosed me without me being diagnosed.
Okay, what can I tell you? I'm a little bit offended these days when somebody just me goes, and I said, yeah, I might have a touch of ADHD, but who knows? And they're like, oh no, you have ADHD. Like, so sure of themselves. I'm like, I'm sorry. Where are your credentials, sir? I need to see your credentials. But yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Just roll with the punches, right?
For me, like, with my, like, I call it like a superpower, but
right.
With dyslexia, like, I can see things in a different pattern than some maybe.
Yeah.
And sometimes they do say dyslexia and ADHD overlap with the spelling and grammar things. A lot of people don't really understand. I started researching a lot more. It's quite fascinating to start learning it. But yeah, if anyone's wondering of why we need to always be given stuff.
You don't need to air out all of our dirty laundry, but okay, whatever, I guess, right?
But let's go maximizing VAs and OBMs in your business overall. You get to really like scale up if that's what something you need to do. And then the VA world and the OBM world, we're so good at online really collaboration benefits. So we overall can really come on another level and think of different ideas that you might have not even thought of.
I do have traditional clients that have, like a brick and mortar business, and I do go into their office sometimes. And that's where I see that gap the best, or the clearest, I should say, where they still do a lot of things on paper. Whereas with OBM and VAs, there's a platform out there, or there's a process already that we have in place where you never get to worry about how things get done. Like, I don't think I've ever worried about how is somebody going to sign this legally, or
Mhm.
how is somebody going to attend this, or you know what I mean? Or how am I going to show somebody what I'm doing on my screen? Well, guess what? We've already figured all that stuff out,
Mhm.
and there's a solution for it that typically is way more efficient than any way that you can think of that you've done it in a traditional office. And I've worked in an office since I was 14 years old. I'm telling you, I've seen it all of people trying to patch together things to, you know, different processes and whatnot. And we've been given all these tools that are not being used, right? And a lot of the times these companies, because they're so focused on getting the actual work done and getting billables in, they just forget, and then they kind of fall behind of everybody else. You know, like if you're still running your business from Excel sheets, I love you all for having the grit and the determination to make that work for you, but that sounds like hell to me.
Mhm.
Um, I know people who still send out invoices from Excel. That's crazy. That is bananas. That
Hmm.
is bananas to me, okay? And I'll say, I'm saying it obviously in a humorous way, because you're spending so much time trying to troubleshoot really old platforms, or platforms that are this close to breaking and leaving you with corrupt files, which gives me like internal
Insane.
anxiety and rage. Yeah.
Mhm.
That you don't even realize until something like that happens.
Yeah.
So we just know, we've seen it, we've dealt with it, we've put people over on different systems. We've seen that not every system can be the best system,
Mhm.
and we work with custom solutions. I think that's probably one of the most important parts. Like,
Yeah.
we're making your business run to your level, or to your ideas. It's not the other way around.
Exactly. You know what I forgot to do? And because I'm so involved, like so into this conversation, I forgot to put banners up.
Oh, and a midway intro. We're on the radio. We're live, pre-recorded, but live.
I know we're just like right into it today.
I know. I
So
know.
if anyone listening or watching us, please like and follow and support us um, here or go follow myself at Career Dynamics VA at the bottom screen, or go, where's yours? Instagram, right here. There you are.
Yeah. Mine's assistant.ontario. Super easy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could find you easily in Google.
Yeah.
Looking at the expectations too, just for your finances and outsourcing, I find like I really try to educate the realtors of their day on this piece, because I find
Hmm.
everyone's talking about you need a VA, go get an OBM, or go do this and this and this and this. Well, have you even thought about your finances? Can you afford
Right.
that? Because the number one thing I'm finding when we work with some people, they've all of a sudden like, oh, we can't afford that bill because we didn't map it out properly. So really assess like your current financial health, compare cost to outsourcing versus in-house and how much you're going to save.
Yeah.
Uh, Define your financial goals and really elevate, like look at your return on investment as a whole, because we're like, for realtors, like they're on the front line, so they have to be really in the front line to make those sales. Well, a good chunk of us do, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Making those connections and then looking at the financial risks overall.
The other thing too is, with industries like that, right? And that could be
Yeah.
for mortgage agents too, and other, I mean, they're all regulated by different bodies in Canada here. And so there are some things that they can and can't do, which fair. But typically solopreneurs like that, where they don't have the support, because not a lot of realtors will have in-house admin
Mhm.
provided by their brokerage. Not all of them do. Some might, but not all of them do.
Mhm.
You have to look at what's a direct return for investment and what's an indirect one, because
Mhm.
it's very clear to me that sometimes we value things like marketing, having a marketing budget more than having admin help or having a setup done for a platform because they don't see the direct return for investment. Because marketing, they say, I can measure, there's a quantitative piece of information that I can get from it that says this is bringing me X leads a week, and this is now converting to XYZ. Yes, but when you're spending more time doing the admin or figuring out a platform, you're losing out on opportunities to go make those connections and go get those in. So what is a direct and indirect return for investment? That's something that you should be thinking about. And if you're not sure about your finances, do a range and have your, like, what is your cutoff, right? So is it a percentage? Are you saying I can spend 5% of my of last year's income on this, or can I spend up to 10% and then stick to it and then adjust as you go? You don't have to put an exorbitant amount out there, especially if you're at the beginning. This is why I always say, is like, you don't need a VA. A VA typically is somebody that you need all the time. If you start off with an OBM, you can do it, like we said, it's a fractional operations manager. So you can do for smaller periods of time, but that will give you more to think about. To say, okay, I've done all these things on my list that have been sitting there for a year. What next? What else can I put into place? And the other thing, I had a really interesting conversation is everybody's getting this subscription fatigue because every platform now is riddled with, you have to, like, even Canva just raised their prices.
Oh, did they?
Right?
No.
You have to check because it was kind of ridiculous. People on the internet were losing their minds about how much they've raised their prices. Yes. And we use it all the time. So they're getting subscription fatigue. So they'll say to me, no, I don't want another platform, until I'm like, okay, all right. I was like, let's do some quick math. You're going to hire a VA and you're going to pay them, I don't know, $40, $50, $60 an hour, whatever the case may be, depending on the expertise, or if it's an OBM, whatever. Or you're going to pay $25 a month to take care of a couple of hours that it would have taken somebody else at a higher rate. Now, all of a sudden, that subscription is the right choice. What you're doing is you're putting the investment of the setup and the setup of the system, you're front loading it. So again, what's your cash flow look like? Can you afford it, or can you do it in chunks, or do you just want the strategy? So why don't you just do a consult if you want to DIY it and learn it, right? There's so many options and people just don't really, don't do the math.
Well, yeah. And I think, unfortunately, with social media, like the notation of like, you buy my course, and kind of the theory of
right.
We're just having this conversation about this on another conversation about it. There's actually a really good podcast to listen to, but let me see if I have it up here. But it kind of goes in a bit to certain people that are out there and they actually have a lot of money to produce these things, and they're just more advertising, buy my course and you're going to get like millions of dollars like I do. But it's really in the reality of it. It takes time. Just like Rome was not built in a day. Business.
Yeah. I actually have a really interesting story about that. That I didn't think about it until someone else told me this. This is a true story that I know from another entrepreneur. So I don't know if people are aware of what a mastermind is, right? It's kind of like the idea of a course, except it's live and you're getting, advice and feedback, and you're doing things together in a group of other like-minded individuals, or with usually a coach or a mastermind leader that has the experience or has a lot of value to offer to a group of entrepreneurs, right? So I did one and it was great. And there's obviously so many out there. So if it's not a course that people are typically trying to sell you, they're talking about masterminds, because I find that you probably get more value out of it, but they are more expensive typically. It's not just like an evergreen course that you can just kind of go through the modules yourself. You're getting live, you're getting these this feedback and access to all of these different people that may be in the same situation as you or have gone through this. So it's very valuable.
Yeah.
Now, this one person who was selling courses was in one of these masterminds. I don't know them personally, but this entrepreneur did that from this mastermind. And they were saying that, oh, you know, so and so. And I was like, yeah, like I've seen her around. I see her ads all the time. And they're like, well, they made millions. Like they made, and they said like she was able to back the numbers to be like, yes, I actually made this. Here's some proof, right? And I was like, wow, really? Yep. So she made millions, and she probably had a couple of offerings, right? Like low, mid, whatever. Even though it was a normal course. I don't know, fee. It wasn't that expensive, but it also wasn't like $20, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they said, then she tried to recreate that and make a mastermind of her own and found out that it didn't work. So her methods that she took to get to those millions, she could not reproduce for other people, because that's the whole idea of a mastermind is like, I was successful, so I'm now going to show you how to be successful, right? And why was that? Because the people that catapulted her up to the millions were the people in the mastermind that she attended. So because she had those high level connections, that's what helped her. And you can't reproduce that with other people. So the only reason, not the only, I'm sorry, she was obviously successful, but I'm saying the majority of the reasoning of why she was so successful with her launches in these courses is because her clients or her collaborations were with people that were also making millions. That's not our day-to-day life. You can't reproduce that, and I don't think people get it when they're like, yes, I'm going to buy this $300 US course and I'm going to make millions after in a launch.
Yeah.
Like, people don't understand. It's like, actually, a lot of launches just fail. What's important is what you take out of it. How do you use that, right? I don't know, but it was really wild to me because I knew who she was talking about, and I was like, yeah, she's so successful. Then as soon as I realized that, oh, I'm never going to be able to replicate that, because she's not able to replicate that for other people. So why would, like, you know what I mean? And it's not a limiting belief. It was a very realistic one of, I don't have the connections that she did. Right?
Yes, it's true. And that's the unfortunate thing with these kind of sales tactics to get into the funnel. Like, it's just, to me, is like unethical, and like it drives me bananas. Like, the more I hear about it, like, well, that's the whole reason why I became a coach too, is because I realized I kind of fell in that kind of bubble, like everybody else, thinking like, because the promise was, I'm going to get you to 10K months. At the end of the day,
I hate that.
At the end of the day, the coach, I don't even want to call her a coach. She's a consultant. Let's be mindful between those different terminologies, which I do educate everybody on. Coaching, for anyone just listening, is really, I'm going to ask you curious questions. You can define your own, like, you're in charge of defining that message, where a consultant will give you strategy advices on how to do something. So this particular coach promised 10K months, and their whole strategy was like, charge 3K here, just so then you can get up to 10K really fast. But and I should have known this when I started this, I'm like, a lot of these pricing models don't make any sense, because I had somebody come to me and they wanted a website development, CRM implementation, branding, like all the things that you need to kind of build the hub of the business.
Yeah.
And she was just like, charge 3K, where I could have charged 5K, because I'm realistic. That was what we're expecting.
Right.
Long story short is, if things are not in alignment to you, start asking questions and do more research and out there. I wanted to talk about like pricing expectations before it's almost at time-ish. And I want to go to, there was something else I wanted to share too before we were almost at time. But VAs here in Canada and or in the US, you're going to see, like, on average, like VAs at least starting at 30 an hour. And people have a little bit of a heart attack on that.
But look at, I don't know. I always say this. I was like 30 now is low.
It is low.
Um, like 30 is low. Like, sorry, we have to pay our own taxes, our own CPP and EI contributions, which are the government taxes and benefits that any employer would have to pay. So when you think about it, when you dissect 30 actually becomes like 15, like 20, like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
And then OBM's at least at 60 an hour. But like the thing is, everything's changing. Even if you look at minimum wage here,
Yeah.
I think it was Ontario. Aren't you guys going up to 17
Yeah.
something?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think here in BC, I think don't quote me. But at the point is that your minimum wage here, people who are just starting out and has no expertise, no nothing, have not, like, I have my BBA in marketing communications. I've worked in the tech industry. I've had years of experience in the tourism hospitality industry, events, like all these things.
Right.
And then you want to pay me like nickels and dimes for my ideas. Like, sorry.
Right. No, but it's true. It's true. And same here, right? Like I don't know, got a BA from, University of Toronto, and like that's not cheap. If you start looking at it, then a postgrad, then all this, different experience in different industries, that's what you're paying for. You're not just paying for my time, right? And that's where people start getting confused, is you're not just paying for my time, you're paying for the time that I've previously spent to get to the level that I'm at. And this is it's so funny because very traditional industries go through this a lot. Like, why do accountants and lawyers charge so much? I was like, well, they literally spent like 8 to 10 years in post-secondary school. That was very, very expensive. And then they're going on to get the actual practical experience. That's what you're paying for. It's not just their time, right? Time is just a way to measure, but you're paying for the experience. Same with accountants, right? They have to get certified, etc.
Right.
Yeah.
We're almost at time. So any last minute thoughts? And I want to share your quiz that you built. Why is business so hard?
Right. So this is supposed to kind of point you in the direction of which part of my business am I missing out on? Which part should I focus on? It's kind of like to take it. If you think that you're missing a couple of steps, this might bring you some some clarity on it. You can find it on ontariosystem.com/business-efficiency. What I should have put it on I should make it into a pop-up or something, but even if you go to ontariosystem.com, I'll make sure to link it on the homepage as well. Take it, it's free. It'll ask you to sign up for our list. Full disclosure, I've been so busy that our list maybe gets an email maybe once or twice a year. So, but I mean, that's good for your inbox, right? I can't handle all the emails that come in, so I figured that's okay. It's just supposed to point you in the right direction of maybe you need to focus on systems, or maybe you need to focus on marketing, or maybe you need to focus on other. And at the end of the day, if you have more questions, I'm happy to answer my DMs. If you want to go on Instagram, assistant.ontario, you'll find me there, or send me a message through the contact form, and we can definitely help you. And if you're a fan of Brittany, odds are we're going to be working together on some things, so don't be shy.
Combo of that. I'm just switching through the slides really, really fast because I just wanted to show, if anyone's watching, you can scan the QR code and it takes you to my, I guess you'd say opt-in, and it's called the Everything Bundle. And so I have a 38-page free ebook on how to outsource, what to outsource, kind of your communication style, like everything in there for you to kind of work through. And then we have a bundle on imposter syndrome and how to overcome it.
Amazing.
And then is whatchamacallit, what else is in there? I did so much in there for you guys. So overall, it's a whole bunch on sales funnels and pipelines as well. That's what else.
Yes. Yeah, I'm literally, so I just scanned the QR code, so I'm on it right now. That's awesome. Yeah, it says crush imposter syndrome, master outsourcing, and scale. That's awesome.
Yeah. So if you're just listening, you can just go to www.creativedynamicsva.com, and it's the opt-in on the home page there for you. So you can come in, and I was just saying to all the realtors, I'm going to be adding to it. I had an idea to do on how to create SOPs, because why not? Let's just make it a true everything bundle.
Very careful, your ADHD is showing.
I know. Somebody did download it, and they said that it's one of the best things that they have seen in a while. So I was like,
Amazing.
that's good. So that's good.
Amazing.
Well, we're already at time. Thank you so much for coming into the show today and pre-recording, because for those who are not in Canada, it is Thanksgiving. So it's Thanksgiving long weekend here in Canada.
Mhm.
So if you're just tuning in, please tune back in to Breaking Arms Building Dreams. A big thank you to United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, and to all the listeners out there. Next week, we have Lindsay coming in. I don't think we have a topic yet, but it's always great show with Lindsay. They're coming back on the show again. With that, everyone, remember your journey is unique and your worth is unquestionable. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.